So here I am in Parliament Square, where just a few hours ago Prince Charles came down in his car, pretty low-key state opening in Parliament, first time he's ever stood in for the Queen. And he announced 38 bills which Boris Johnson's government is going to try and bring forward in his kind of second-last batch, we hope, before a general election in 2024. So what did the sort of great populist PM bring forward? Apart from some things on sort of benefits of Brexit and that sort of thing, I disagree about them though you might, it was quite a sort of techie, kind of quite sober collection of bills. But the biggest problem is what's missing. So what's in it? We've got all sorts. We've got being able to get rid of EU law by statutory instrument without an act of Parliament. That means being able to repeal laws that the EU passed without having to get proper approval from MPs. Quite techie, likely to be quite controversial. We've also got levelling up schools, privatising Channel 4, UK ports being able to block ships that aren't paying their seafarers the minimum wage. That's after the P&O scandal. New laws against things like fake reviews on websites, the hacking of smart TVs, even allowing genetically engineered fruit and vegetables or to be more commonplace, kind of relaxing the red tape on that. That's the common thread that goes through it. It's all about red tape, procurement, harnessing private industry, all the sorts of things that frankly you would expect sort of a Tory government comfortably in turn to say. The problem is that there are an awful lot of things that were not in this bill. Number one, cost of living. So the Queen's speech, 38 bills, none of them would tackle the cost of living directly now. They happen in the long term. And yes, you wouldn't usually have an act of Parliament to give people money to help with their energy bills, but this is always a time when the government uses the Queen's speech to kind of highlight what's coming down the track in all ways, and it didn't do that this time. It just said we will act if needed. The same problem is an employment bill. That was promised way back when to enshrine rights to flexible working and all sorts. Now, despite COVID making flexible working kind of such a big hot topic of debate, the employment bill still hasn't been brought forward. That means measures on things like tips for restaurant workers being able to keep all their tips is still kind of hanging in the balance. Then there are some things which are in the Queen's speech but missing key sections. So take the ban on conversion therapy. Finally a bill for that after being promised by the Tories 4 years ago. This will ostensibly stop organisations from trying to convince people not to follow their sexuality. But it won't include gender identity, it won't include trans people, because of a sort of internal party row and a sort of wider cultural debate about that. It also, crucially, is not actually a proper ban for any adults, because it won't include you as an adult unless you are actually coerced or forced into conversion therapy. Campaigners say the whole problem with it is that people aren't always forced, they're convinced, they're kind of persuaded that they should do it. So that will let those people potentially fall through the cracks. Queen's speech also leaves the whole stability of Northern Ireland in the balance. So there's big law coming forward on immunity from prosecution for people who perhaps killed or injured people during the Troubles, on both sides. This has been very controversial, and what's now being said is that people will only get immunity if they do cooperate with a commission of inquiry sort of thing. There are other ways in which Northern Ireland could be a sort of tinderbox here, most notably on Brexit. So we've got all these Brexit opportunities to strip back, because that's what the government is calling it. But crucially, the Northern Ireland Protocol, which puts Belfast under some sort of EU rules on imports from the rest of the UK, is still there. The DUP see it as a major stumbling block to being able to set up power sharing in Northern Ireland. And the government have potentially threatened to overrule it from the UK. But that's not in the Queen's speech, and it's not out of it either. They've just said that we could potentially act later if we need to. That just leaves the whole question unanswered, and it's a very big problem for the future. So, big speech, loads of bills, loads of stuff for the government to do. But what the critics say is that it's leaving the key questions of our time, of right now, unanswered.